Friday, 6:15. His phone buzzes on the counter. A group chat. Drinks tonight. The usual crowd, come if you can. He looks at it for 4 seconds, then puts it face down and goes back to what he was doing. Ask the people around him what that means, and they'll tell you the same story. He's slowing down, maybe a little depressed. Maybe he just stopped trying. Watch the rest of his evening, and the story falls apart. He's fine. Better than fine. By 9, he feels more like himself than he did all week. So what changed? Not that he stopped liking people. Somewhere along the way, his peace simply got more expensive, and the outside world stopped being able to afford it as easily as it used to. That's not withdrawal. It's a real psychological shift. And for a lot of men, the calculation starts changing somewhere around midlife. Here's exactly what's behind it. At 25, the question under most invitations is, what might I miss if I don't go? Life is still unwritten, the cost of going is low, and the upside feels close to unlimited. So the answer is almost always yes. Somewhere in the years that follow, the question flips. By 40, it's closer to, is this actually worth disturbing my peace for? 2 things changed. He's already been to hundreds of versions of the party, so the mystery is gone. And he now knows exactly what a quiet evening at home costs him to give up, because for once, there's something specific competing with it. 2 hours where nobody needs anything from him. So when an invitation shows up, he's not weighing going out against nothing. He's weighing it against something increasingly valuable. After-work drinks, a neighborhood get-together, another Saturday dinner. None of these are bad invitations. They're just being measured against a Friday night that quietly became one of the more valuable things in his week. This isn't cynicism or burnout, even though it can look like both. It's closer to opportunity cost. The price of going out didn't rise. What rose is the value of what he's giving up by going. An hour of drinks with an old co-worker doesn't cost an hour anymore. Once he counts the drive, the wind down, the worst night's sleep after, it costs closer to 3. That's not him being dramatic. That's just an honest accounting of what a night out actually takes out of him now. Once a man starts running that math, even unconsciously, his whole relationship with the outside world changes. He's not avoiding people. He's just no longer spending an increasingly precious resource on something that doesn't clearly earn it back. This doesn't mean he wants less out of life. It means his energy has become far more selective. Psychologists describe part of this shift through socioemotional selectivity theory, as a person's sense of how much time they have left starts to feel less open-ended, whether from age, a health scare, or just a birthday that makes 40 feel real. They don't withdraw from people. They get pickier about which people are worth their attention. Picture him at 28, making small talk with strangers at a bar, mostly just enjoying being out. At 45, the same scene feels pointless, not painful. He's already met 1,000 versions of that conversation. What replaces it isn't isolation. It's a much smaller list of people who actually get his time, and a much lower tolerance for the rest. The old friend he sees twice a year but talks to like no time passed. The 2 or 3 people he'd call at 11 at night if something went wrong. And here's what people miss. Fewer people can mean more connection, not less. 10 acquaintances covering the same small talk. The weather, work, the kids add up to plenty of contact and not much connection. 1 person, 2 hours, a conversation that actually goes somewhere, can leave him feeling more connected than an entire weekend of larger plans ever did. It's not that the people around him got worse. His threshold moved, because his sense of how much time he has left to spend carelessly moved with it. There's a version of this topic that gets one thing badly wrong. It says the roles end at retirement, the kids are grown, the performance is over. For most men in their 40s, that's simply not true. He's still working, maybe harder than ever. He might still have young kids at home. He's still the one people expect to have the answer. So if the roles haven't ended, what changed? This. He's found the one place he's occasionally allowed to set them down. At work, he has to be reliable and unbothered. Around his kids, he's the steady one. But somewhere inside his own home, especially once the day settles, there are finally moments when nobody needs him to perform. That's not laziness. Pulling into the driveway and sitting there an extra 30 seconds before going in. That's a man putting down a weight he's carried since 7 that morning. It's the same route as something else people notice. Outside, he's constantly responding to other people's schedules, moods, and unpredictability. A line that's too long, a table that isn't ready, a meeting that runs over. Home gives him more say over what happens next. That predictability isn't boring. After a day of reacting to everything, an evening where nothing surprises him starts to feel less like nothing happening and more like recovery. It's also why silence stopped needing to be filled with noise. A quiet room used to feel like something was missing. Now it just feels like a room. He can sit through an entire evening with nothing scheduled, nothing playing, and it doesn't register as boring. It registers as his. Before this goes any further, it needs a moment of honesty. Not every man who stays home is protecting his peace. Some of them really are avoiding life, and from the outside, the two can look identical. Here's how to tell them apart. Are you choosing home because it restores you, or because the outside world scares you? Restorative solitude leaves him steadier the next day, ready to re-engage on his own terms. Avoidance doesn't restore anything. It just postpones the discomfort, and each night alone makes the next invitation harder than the last. This is also where loneliness and solitude finally stop being confused. Loneliness is wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is choosing to be alone because your own company is enough. A man who understands that difference doesn't automatically fear an empty evening anymore. If any of this sounds closer to avoidance than peace, that's worth taking seriously and worth talking to someone about. Pull every thread together, and one pattern sits underneath all of it. He's not shrinking his life. He's refining it. The cost calculation, the selectivity, the performance he can finally set down at home, the honest line between peace and avoidance, all of it comes down to one question running under everything he decides now. What actually deserves his time? This isn't a man who's automatically wiser or better off than one still chasing every weekend. It's just a man who's lived enough of the world to know what it has to offer before he agrees to leave a piece he already has to go get it. Home didn't suddenly get more exciting. It's the same place it always was. What changed is that peace simply became harder to beat. 5 years from now, the shape of what earns his time might look different again. This was never about arriving at some permanent version of himself. So tell me, what became less worth leaving home for as you got older? Drop it in the comments. If this helped, subscribe to FinalSecond and send it to a man who's been quietly written off as antisocial. He might not have the words for what's actually happening to him yet.